owner and operator of Hank's Yarn Parlour here in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Thank you so much for joining me. You're so welcome. Just a little podcast where I talk about what's going on in the shop and also what I've been knitting and crocheting on. Sometimes I just talk about what's like some of the yarns and stuff that I have in the shop, and I do today want to talk a little bit about Superwash yarn, but that is because I have a new project involving Superwash yarn, and also just because there's been a lot of chat going on about Superwash yarn online lately, so I just kind of wanted to put my 2 cents in with that. But right, let me get started with shop news. What's coming up? Spring Lamb amigurumi is coming up. So our next class, we are going to be making a little crochet cheap for Lamb. How adorable is he, you guys? Oh my gosh. So there's still a couple of spots open for this. This class is on the 25th of March, 6:30 to 9 p.m. I believe. There will be a link to that in the description below, as always. Yeah, that's our next class. I'm super excited about this. Also, our Stripy Socks workshop is going to be coming up on the 1st and 15th of April. It's just a few weeks away for that one as well, and there are still a few spots open for that one too. So if you're local and you think either of those might be of interest, I mean, even if you're just looking to get out for a night, come on down. We always have a blast. So you can find all the details for that. As I say, there'll be a link to the events page in the description, and if you have any questions about it, feel free to get in touch either via email or socials, and we can sort that out for you. Right, let's just go ahead and jump straight into what I've been working on. There's been a lot going on since I chatted to you guys last, and I know the last time when I chatted to you, I had started a bunch of new projects. They haven't all gotten as far along as I would have hoped, mainly because there was another pending project, actually a commission, that I was waiting for the yarn for, and the yarn finally turned up, so I decided I better get going on this commission, but well, we'll chat about that in a moment. Let me see. First of all, I want to show you the progress on my Franny Granny crocheted pullover. Haven't gotten super far with this since I showed you guys last time. So last time I just had the granny squares, the white bit of this yoke done. I've since hemmed and hawed about what order to add my colors in. So I'll just remind you, I had this coral, a kind of goldy color, and this petrol blue, which I'm absolutely loving together. I'm a little bit hesitant about the order. I thought that I was definitely going to start with the coral and then go to the gold and then go to the blue, and then last minute I made the decision that we maybe just needed a single band of the gold before we started the pink. So that is where we are at. I've just started a second round of this pink color, and yeah, and now I'm kind of just winging this with the colors. I think I'm still not 100% sure about starting it with that gold, but I'm gonna work a few more rounds in the different colors and just kind of see how I feel about it. I mean, if I don't love it, I am just gonna pull it out and try again. So yeah, not a whole lot else to say about this. Haven't got a ton of time to work on it, but it is kind of smooth sailing now. It's basically, now that all the granny squares are joined and I've done the collar, so now all I kind of have to worry about is working these rounds to make kind of the rest of the body of the jumper, and at a certain point in time there will be a split for sleeves and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's where we're at with this so far. I think I might have changed my crochet hook size. I was fairly certain that I was working with a 4mm hook. Or sorry, a 4.5mm hook, but which is what I went back to when I started adding the colors on. It's been a little while since I've actually crocheted on this beyond joining the squares, so I'm just noticing that the granny clusters in the gold and the pink bands look a bit bigger than they did in the squares. They're not super loose. It might also just be my own tension that I'm maybe just a little bit more relaxed with these rounds than I was when I was making the squares, but I think in any case I'm gonna stay with this size, I think. Well, I'm gonna go for a few more rounds anyway and see how I feel about it. I feel like the size of the stitches isn't what's bothering me. It's the size of the gaps. So she has in this pattern, there's a chain 1 space between the clusters, which is kind of what you're working into on the subsequent rounds. But yeah, I mean, it's just like these, and like for the first round, what would have been this gold one, you do have to kind of evenly distribute, so you're not actually going into all the predefined spaces that were in your granny square. You kind of have to fudge it a little bit in some spaces. But yeah, even so, I'm finding now that I'm on the pink rounds where we are just working into the chain 1 spaces, we don't have to fudge it anymore. Those gaps are still pretty big. And I haven't decided yet if I'm put off by how big they are. they seem very open at this point in time, but it may just need to be one of those trust the process things. So I think I'm gonna work a few more rounds on that before I decide whether or not I'm gonna take it back and go down a hook size, or if I'm gonna change any of the stripy colors. But yeah, hopefully now, assuming that I can find some time to actually work on it, I think the rest of this, once I kind of work out those specs, will be pretty smooth sailing. Really liking this yarn as well. I find a lot of plant-based fiber yarns can be really splitty, but this one's got a good high twist in it. In fact, the texture of the yarn almost looks chain spun at first glance. It's not, but it does kind of have, I don't know, that sort of look to it. But it's just really high twist. But yeah, really enjoying the Atlantico by Rosario Spore. Okay, let's see. Next up is the colorwork cardigan that I had started. So last time I saw you guys, I had started a bit of this sleeve. And I've gotten a bit further down the sleeve, so I'm essentially kind of doing a sleeve swatch. I think I'm going to have to take it back a little bit. Now, I've had a few dilemmas with this. Okay, first of all, you can kind of see right here where this little bit here, the chart, that it actually kind of just like jukes in for some reason. That is actually because my tension up here changed a little bit. Like, I think there's one tight foot in here, but trouble was, so what I did, I actually ended up moving, so I started this off on a 10-inch circular needle, and then when I got about this far up, I felt like I had enough increases that it was getting really bunchy on the 10-inch needle that I should go up to the 16-inch needle, but I wasn't quite right about that. There weren't quite enough stitches to get around the 16-inch needle, so it was kind of stretching the work out. But the 10-inch needle was a little bit too small, so the stitches were bunching quite a bit, which normally wouldn't bother me, but the problem with them bunching in such a small circumference like this is that then your floats end up shorter, which is kind of where that happened. I've actually got a little marker on the back here where I switched needles. So that was happening here, that the floats were getting a bit bunched up. And then when I switched, it like immediately started getting really big, even though there weren't really any more increases here. And that's just because it's stretching out over a bigger needle. So essentially it's changing the gauge. I'm not totally sure that I've worked the math on the increases and decreases either, so which is fine. I fully expected that this would be treat it as a swatch basically, because I'm not really following a definite pattern. If you didn't see the last episode, I'm kind of making a bit of a Franken cardigan with a couple of different patterns. So yeah, it's going to require a bit of trial and error, which I'm totally fine with. I was also having a little bit of a second thought about the color, not the colors themselves. I'm really happy with the 4 colors that I've chosen. I think they're working really well together, but I am kind of second guessing the order that I put them in the chart, mostly because I feel like that kind of gray blue is really dominant and taking over now, and I wanted the mustard color to be dominant. So I'm kind of in limbo with this guy. He's kind of got put into timeout because I know that I need to correct the gauge that decreases just the size of the thing, so I need to take some of this back. But I wanted to kind of give myself some time away from this so that I could come back to it and decide, well, are the colors wonky? Do I want to change them? So yeah, I put it away and I took it out again yesterday in anticipation that I was going to talk to you guys about this. And to be honest, I'm still not sure what to just sorry, this is like attached to all 4 balls at the moment. I really like what's going on with this section of the motif, but I'm not loving these big gray sections. Like this just seems like a lot. And I think I would kind of prefer for these sections to actually be that yellow background. So I haven't quite worked out how I'm gonna get around that. Like I'm not sure if I need to rearrange the colors in the chart or if I need to maybe add a little bit into the chart, or maybe even just take away this. I need to modify something here. There's too much gray going on is the point that I'm trying to make anyway. So still having to think about this, but let me know what you think. I mean, I'm not terribly upset with how, like, I don't think this looks bad. I just don't think that it's what I had in mind. I don't think it's what I was going for. So I don't know. What would you guys do? Would you take it back? Do you think you'd like to see more of that yellow color in this? What do you think? I would like to see more yellow. Like I really like this section. I just fold this up. And the little yellow diamond, I mean, I love that. But I feel like by the time this jumper is done, all you're going to see is this like big gray block. I think I just wanted the mustard to kind of come through more as the background color. So I'm a little bit unsure about how to proceed with that one. So any input, much appreciated. But I think it's just going to go back into timeout for a little while I have a think about that and await your feedback. Yeah, so that has not got very far either, mostly because I kind of hit a little bit of a roadblock. Put it aside, but I didn't go back to it until the other day because I had to start this commission. So I had a gentleman come into the shop looking for a pullover, V-neck pullover, and I kind of gave him estimated that it would take like a couple of months. He came in mid-January, and I kind of told him I would estimate like the end of March because I knew I had to order in the yarn, and that generally takes about 10 days roughly. Unfortunately, it took a lot longer than 10 days. The shipment actually got kind of lost in the post from Denmark, so bless the folk that work in the Camerose warehouse, because they did, like, I kind of sometimes it takes a couple of weeks, so I kind of want to let a couple of weeks go by, and on the 3rd week I was like, okay, this is definitely not normal, it should be here by now, so I got in touch with them. And they resent it, and I got it almost right away, which is great. So anyway, long story short, there's another jumper underway now. So I started this guy last week of February, so I think it's been on my needles for about 3 weeks now. Now, in typical Casey form, okay, listen, so when he came in, he didn't have a pattern or anything like that picked out. He just said that he wanted a V-neck pullover, just really basic stockinette V-neck. He did want a few other things as well, but I just decided we'll just start there and see how we get on. So anyway, he also added at the very last bit that he wanted it in black. I should have led with that question, because if I had known that he had wanted this all in black, and not just black, fuzz and black. Okay, I'm just gonna show this to you guys now. Here it is. It's quite big already. He's quite tall. Not a very large gentleman, but quite tall. So I'm about, I think I'm about 3/4, maybe 70% of the way done on the body. It does need quite a bit of length there. I kind of got, right, rewind, I'm going to start again. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm a little bit scatterbrained. I didn't really plan these things out when I podcast. I just kind of wing it. So I have a tendency to get ahead of myself sometimes a little bit. But so there's no pattern for this, but I want to talk to you about the construction. So I am just, again, I'm a little bit Franken jumpers lately. We'll just kind of go with more of a method of construction than a definite pattern, and I decided that I really wanted to use Susie Meyer's Contiguous method for the kind of yoke and shoulder shaping on this jumper, as opposed to doing like a raglan or saddle shoulder. I mean, this actually mimics a saddle shoulder, but so if you're not familiar, Susie Meyer's Contiguous method, you can actually download this on Ravelry for free. So it's not really a pattern so much as it is a formula, and she kind of lays out how the construction of this works in that document, which you can download for free on Ravelry. But I'll just kind of give you the basic lowdown here. So the jumper that I'm wearing is also Susie Meyer's Contiguous construction. There is actually a pattern for this one. I modified the sleeves on that tab box pleats. Cannot for the life of me remember the name or the designer of the one that I'm wearing at the moment, but I will link it below. I will find it and link it below. I will also, if I do find it, link it below. I'll throw up a photo of it here. Anyway, so basically how this works is it's meant to mimic a set-in sleeve that you might get if you were knitting in separate pieces rather than a seamless top-down construction. So that might mean that you're knitting a front and a back, seaming, and then kind of picking up stitches, but more often than not, you're knitting a front and a back, and then you're knitting a sleeve, and then you're seaming everything together. So, in order to do this without seaming, Susie has developed this really clever way of working kind of the back portion flat and placing strategic increases similar to a raglan shaping in order to get this shape. So I'm going to show you just kind of what the shoulders of this look like. So you can see here, so generally how this works is you're casting on along the back of the neck, and usually like 1 or 2 stitches, which would be considered the front. There's usually a stitch or 2 that might be considered the shoulder seam or the saddle, and then you're kind of working increases at this point between the front and the back as you knit so many rows back and forth, so we're not joining in the round yet. And it creates this line here, so this seam here. And then when you get so far down that, we start popping increases into this section as well, and that creates the sleeve cap at the shoulder. And then you can also, while you're doing that, shape the neckline. This one has a little bit of, it's a round neckline, so you kind of are working it straight for so long, and then you're starting to shape it with a little bit of kind of increases, and then to get this scoop across the front, it's you've cast on so many stitches, and then you're joining it to the other side of the jumper. So that's what's happening on this side of the jumper is also happening on this side of the jumper. So you cast on so many in the middle, and they're actually kind of joined along. Your front and back bits are eventually joined at the front here. But this also means that it's really easy. So rather than kind of flattening this out with a bunch of cast on stitches, you can actually just keep working these increases until they meet in the middle to form that V. Super easy in terms of just the like grasping it. Just in my head I was like, oh, that would make sense. So that's what I decided to do. Now, however, of course, like anything, because it's not a set formula or set pattern, it's just formula, it also required a little bit of trial and error. This particular one, I opted to give it a little bit more room in the saddle, and I apologize because this is black, you can't see the saddle, which is why I threw this on today so that you could actually see the construction. So there is about I think there's 9 stitches in my saddle, so you're not going to be able to see this on the camera with the black yarn, I don't think, but the saddle runs right down here, and then the sleeve starts kind of shaping on either end of that so that it comes down into that sort of triangle. So it's, if I just put my fingers in the 2 points at the top of the saddle, and then that's the bottom. So yeah, just sizing wise, it did require a couple of tries to just working out how rapidly I needed to increase for the V-neck, what the yoke depth was going to be. So just kind of doing a bit of math. I did have to rip it out a couple of times, so that set me back a little bit. But you've only been working on this for 3 weeks, Casey, and it's already this size. So that is because I plowed through the body on this thing during a Lord of the Rings extended edition marathon at the last weekend there. So you can actually check out my socials very soon for a little peek at how much I've actually managed to knit during a 12-13 hours. So what even is the full runtime of that? It's definitely got to be at least 12 hours. I don't think it's quite 13, but anyway, it's a good long while. My hands were definitely feeling it after that. They were a bit sore. It was a bit of a marathon, but I did get so much done, so I feel like I've really caught up with this, and I'm happy with its sizing and kind of how it's turning out. So normally I would pick up the sleeves, but do them before the body, but I actually, just for the sake of seeing how much I could knit, I just kind of wanted to knit something that was going to be more or less consistent in size, so I just stuck with the body. Now, let's talk about the yarn for this one, okay? So he told me that he didn't really mind what yarn it was as long as it was black and as long as it was fuzzy. So we opted to use, so I basically, I needed a DK weight yarn to go with the fluff. Makes up a nice iron weight for me. I don't like knitting anything that's much chunkier than that, so mostly because I don't like the needles. I don't like using really large needles. If you do, that is absolutely your jam. Keep doing it. I just find them make my hands really sore, so I don't love them. I prefer to knit with kind of finer stuff. 5.5, 6 is about the max that I'm really willing to go, and even then I'm like, I just don't like how the needles feel in my hands. So we ended up going with the Merino for Us by Rosario's 4. So this is a Superwash Merino DK weight. And the fluff is Camarose's Midnight Soul. That is a baby alpaca and tencel mix. Absolutely love this fluff. This is delightful to work with. I don't find it irritating at all. It's giving a really lovely halo to this knit. It feels amazing. Now, a little bit of trouble in terms of we're mixing a superwash yarn with a non-superwash yarn. And what is that going to mean for laundering? Okay, first of all, I want to talk about laundering superwash yarn because I have been seeing over the past couple weeks, I mean, like, this has been an ongoing issue for a while, but I just have been seeing so much of it on Facebook forums, my Instagram feed, Reddit. Everybody is complaining about superwash wool stretching out. Guys, that is not the yarn's fault. We took all the scales off of the yarn to make superwash yarn. So superwash yarn, sorry, I shouldn't assume you guys know about superwash yarn, but the whole point of superwash yarn and why they make it, how they make it. So they make this so that we can put our knits into the washing machine without them felting. And what makes wool felt is that, so the fibers are basically covered in little teeny tiny scales. There's scales all down the shaft of fiber. So when those fiber or scales they're able to kind of interlock with each other almost like a Velcro sort of thing, and that is what gives wool its elasticity and its bounce. That's what enables it to regain its shape. So when we take them all away and then we soak our yarn, of course it's going to stretch out. So that is not superwash yarn behaving badly. You just may not either be laundering it correctly or you're using it for projects that it's not really suitable for. Now, I don't like to be knitting police, so definitely, I mean, take this with a grain of salt. It's not meant to put you off using superwash yarn. I quite like superwash yarn, but I think if you're going to buy superwash yarn, the whole point is to put it in the machine. So if you put superwash yarn in the machine where it's going to get more agitation, it is going to stop that from stretching out. If you just put superwash garment or blanket or accessory, whatever, and just leave it to soak in a basin of water for a couple of hours, yeah, it's going to absorb a ton of water. It's going to stretch that fiber out. The fiber is going to relax, but it's not going to come back to itself because the scales aren't there. This is also why things like cotton and alpaca stretch out. It's just the nature of the fiber, okay? So let's not vilify the yarn because we made it what it is. But it is designed to go into the machine. If you wash it in the machine, it will not stretch out the same, okay? It might stretch out a little bit. It kind of depends on exactly the cycle of your machine. But there are definitely things that you can do to prevent, and also, okay, things that you can do, best practices when washing wool in the machine, and also best practices when you have to hand wash superwash yarn. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. We'll come back to that because it's relevant to the jumper. So if you're going to wash superwash in the machine, just as is, I would, in fact, if you're washing any woolens in the machine, any hand knits, okay, if you bought it in a shop machine knit and it says it's machine washable, chuck it in there. It'll probably be fine. Your hand knitted items, however, I would always recommend washing them inside in the machine. Actually, I do this when I hand wash them too, but especially in the machine. Get yourself one of those mesh laundry bags or a pillowcase, anything like that that you can pop it into and then put it in the machine. And what that's going to do is it is going to stop anything else in the machine, including the drum, of your machine and anything else that you put in there. So if you've got like other clothes, like if you're just doing a load of washing, it's going to prevent anything else that's in the machine from rubbing against the fiber and causing any felting or pilling or any of that sort of stuff. So it is not impossible to felt superwash wool, okay? So we still have to observe some rules. You should also definitely never put it in at a higher temperature than what the ball band suggests. So this one here, you can find this information on the ball band. If I hold that up. Okay. So this information right here, there's a load of symbols, and hopefully that is focusing. Hopefully I just try to get that back in the middle there. Okay, so this one here, little wash tub icon. Might actually be a little bit too close for it to focus. Okay, little wash tub icon with the line under it. That means that you can machine wash this. First of all, if you don't know, that's what that symbol means. The number inside it, 30, is the recommended temperature for the wash. So you should not put this in a wash higher than 30 degrees, okay? Cooler the better for these things. Now, when this goes in the machine, if I would put it in on a delicate cycle. I don't like putting it in the wool cycle on my machine because the wool cycle actually has a longer soaking time, and we don't want that. We don't want our superwash to just be sitting in water for extended periods of time. We want it in there and moving for just as long as it needs to be to get clean. So I would look at putting it on a delicate program on your machine. I find that one on my machine, I think that cycle takes about 40 minutes. It doesn't have a really good, like a really lengthy soak time at the beginning. It just kind of fills the drum and starts moving the clothes about. So it's not it's not ever stationary where the clothes are just sitting in the drum in water. The other thing is, be careful, even if you're putting your knit into one of these garment bags or pillowcase, don't put anything else in that cycle that is really heavy. So don't be washing your knits with jeans or towels or bedding or anything like that. If you've got a couple other like light tops or maybe a few other knits, lighter knits, don't put a great big Aran jacket in there with it as well. Just use your common sense. Anything that is going to be radically heavier than the item you are trying to wash is going to potentially cause damage to the other item, okay, to the lighter item. It will take the brunt of that abuse, and we don't want that. Okay, now, having said all that, so definitely, like, if you're buying superwash yarn, use the machine. There are only a few other scenarios that I can really imagine. Okay, if you don't have a machine, that definitely is going to cause an issue. So we can hand wash superwash, but let's just bear with me a second. We'll chat about that. The other scenario is it might be a hand dyed skein, and they almost always recommend that you hand wash those. Having said that, I have a few pairs, just a few, of socks that I've knitted with hand dyed yarns, Inspiring Yarns, yarns from back when they were Giddy Aunt. I've also got some Townhouse yarns from This Is Knit in Dublin. Anyway, those always recommend that even though they are superwash bases, that you hand wash them just to be gentler on the dyes and stuff. Now, having said that, I have put some hand wash socks through the wash, and again, in the wee bags, the wee mesh bags. Haven't had any issues with the dyes running or the dyes bleeding or that sort of thing, but if you'd prefer to hand wash them, I totally understand. You can. The last scenario is this one. So I've combined a superwash and a non-superwash yarn, and I must respect the non-superwash, because if I put this in the machine, it will absolutely felt like in a heartbeat. Fluff in the machine is definitely a no-no. So okay, so if we have to hand wash our superwash yarns, now Sometimes, and I've gotten away with this with some other yarns. Sometimes, so if you were holding a bit of superwash yarn with a bit of non-superwash yarn to do something like a color work yoke maybe, or ornaments or something like that, I find that kind of when they're separate, and you've got a non-superwash yarn, that it kind of has, as long as that yarn is the dominant one, or at least kind of a 50-50 mix, I find that that yarn, for the most part, kind of maintains the shape of the superwash. It's not going to let the superwash stretch out to the same degree, so that's usually okay. In this particular case, because this is a superwash wool, which is prone to stretching, as well as an alpaca tencel mix, which are both also don't have elasticity. So there's nothing in the combination of these fibers that is going to kind of keep this thing, help this thing keep its shape. It is going to want to stretch out. So, again, I would, in terms of the actual washing, in any of those scenarios, when you are actually hand washing superwash, again, put it in one of those laundry bags or a pillowcase. Reason being, so when it's all gathered in there, so in the machine, it actually, this helps in the machine as well, so, but in the machine, it's to kind of prevent it from being agitated by what else is in the machine. When it's just in a basin, even though it's on its own, because it is soaking up all that water, and there's a lot of weight in the water, and the water is also just kind of impregnating those fibers and allowing them to stretch out, kind of encouraging them to stretch out even. If you kind of put a garment in a basin, load it full of water, and then just yank it out, all of the weight of that is going to really stretch it out. Okay, so that's the first thing, and we don't want. So if we have it all gathered up in a bag, we just lift the bag, it's none of that fiber is going to allow to be stretched under its own weight because it's supported by the bag. Then what you want to do next, remember we're never wringing, but we just want to squeeze as much water out of the bag then as possible. And then we're going to roll it, take it out, once we get as much as we can squeezed out, take it out of the bag, roll it up in a towel, and then lay it flat to block it. Now, that really just means that you're going to lay it out flat, and you're going to shape it to the dimensions that it should be. So if it comes out and it's a little bit stretched out and you're freaking out because, oh my god, I can't let it, it's too late, it's already that size, it will never go back, it'll go back. Just kind of gotta massage it into shape. Now, if it has gone really far, if the sleeves maybe are really prone to stretching, the body really stretches, the sleeves are the worst. You can, if you have a tumble dryer, get away sometimes with putting it in there on really short intervals, and I would definitely recommend really low heat. In fact, if you have a fan dryer, I find that helps too, but it's just, you want it to kind of, the tumbling motion plus the air, I think, just kind of, at that point, the technicality of the science, it's just, is eluding me a little bit. I'm not sure that I have the words to describe what is happening in there, but the important thing is that it may help to shrink it back into size a little bit. But as long as you aren't allowing it to stretch out in the first place, it shouldn't be a problem. So taking it all out of the basin and water at once like that should really help with that problem. Now, there are some scenarios where actually the stretch, if you will, might actually be beneficial. It might actually be something that you're looking for. And I think that this kind of comes down to project planning. Is the pattern that I've selected appropriate for this yarn? Is, like, I mean, once again, I'm not going to be knitting police, but some yarn choices are better for some patterns than others, okay? Just something to consider. If you're doing something that is really like lacy, for example, lace is a great one. I think that lace really benefits from things like superwash yarn or other drapier type fibers like alpaca and plant-based fibers, because it allows the lace to really open up. So that's just one example. Anything that you want to be really nice and flowy and drapey is, so things like shawls, or maybe like kind of more oversized jumpers. In fact, the one that I'm wearing, actually, this is Superwash as well. Um, I hand wash this because it is the hand dyed stuff. I haven't got brave enough to put hand dyed in the machine yet. The socks have gone in there, but I haven't done it with this jumper because um, the last, so this is 3 skeins. This is Inspiring Yarns, by the way. Colorways are pearl, beach bum, and fur at the bottom. Now, the skein of fur is actually their singles merino. And I can't recall if that is Superwash or not, but I have a feeling, based on how it's wearing, I don't think that that one is Superwash. I might be wrong, but I kind of feel like putting singles in the machine is also a little bit risky. because it doesn't have the plies in there, right? So it's just a single ply twisted. It's just more prone to pilling and more prone to abrasive damage, I suppose. So, but this one didn't stretch out. It did not stretch out when I blocked it. It came out the exact size that I wanted it to. This one, I know that because this is so much larger than what I'm used to knitting for myself as well, like, I know that the weight of this thing on its own, even when it's not wet, over time, this probably will, because it's made of 2 drapey fibers held together, it will stretch out. This is probably going to lengthen a little bit over time, so I'm going to take that into consideration when I'm making my project. So if I need the body on this to be 18 inches from the underarm, I'm probably going to stop maybe around like the 18-inch mark. And I knew that based on my swatch. So I know you guys hate hearing this, but if the size, if we're talking about garments in particular, like obviously shawls and blankets, that sort of thing, it doesn't really matter if it comes out a little bit bigger, if it does stretch out. But it is definitely a problem with garments. Everybody's always coming, oh, my sweater doesn't fit now. So swatch, please, for the love, swatch. Because swatching isn't just, I know it's boring and you want to just cast on the actual thing, but a swatch tells you so much more than just what your gauge is. It's also going to tell you how that fiber is going to behave once it's being washed. It's going to give us a little preview, and that allows us to see what the drape is like, what the texture is like, the size as well. It's also going to allow us to see if you were working with any different colors, are they going to bleed or anything like that? Do they look good together? Do I, So there's lots of reasons for swatching. If you're going to swatch in Superwash, in fact, I do this with all my swatches anyway. It's just good practice, is to make your swatch, measure your swatch, make a note of what the gauge of the swatch was, and then block it and measure it again and compare how much that has changed, because you could be kind of knitting away and you know that your sleeve needs to be X inches long or centimeters long, but so you knit it 30 centimeters long and then you go to block it and it comes, it stretches out and now it's 40 centimeters long. Hopefully that makes sense. So there are little adjustments that we can make if we give ourselves all the information and tools before we start, and that's really what a swatch is doing for us. So yeah, that's a little bit of rant on Superwash yarns. I prefer, generally speaking, I do prefer working with non-Superwash yarns because I like the elasticity, I like the bounce, but in this particular case, we did want something just a little bit more drapey. So I am really happy with how this is turning out. Flying through this body now. Hopefully the sleeves won't take too long. And hopefully, I don't know if I'll quite have this finished by the end of March like I told this gentleman that it would be. I might have to get in touch with him and let him know that it might be a little bit into April before it's totally done, because the other thing is that once I do block this, it's going to take a few days to dry. I think it's still been really, really wet here and not great drying weather, so might take a few days, especially because of its size. But yeah, we'll just kind of have to tackle that as we come to it. So anyway, that is everything that I had to show you today. If you guys have any questions at all regarding superwash yarn or how to care for mixed fibers, pop a comment below and let me know, and I will do my best to answer your questions. And I think that's all that I had for today. So if you've enjoyed your time here with me, if you're still around, thank you so much. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button below, where you can also find information to all of the patterns and events that I chatted about today. Okay, I'll see you next time.